Okay, today we are going to go over. Last time we talked about just the benefits of exercise in general, and then some of the specific benefits of specific types of exercise. That wasn't super philosophical. It was pretty practical, but this discussion today is going to be super practical. And this is going to be, I'm leaving this call with a good amount of homework for you guys. I just have like some homework questions for you that I'm going to leave you with at the end of this call that you're going to probably send to me in an email. And then I will help you act on what I'm going to kind of present and show you here. This is going to be kind of a good learning experience, but then it's going to help set you up for my goal for January, for those of you doing the band that aren't doing the group, to really kind of, instead of just like exercising, really learning how to bring some specific order and learning how to do effective exercise. Adele, welcome. It's great to have you on. Thanks for jumping in. Can you hear me good? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Okay, I'm seeing you move. I'll take that as a thumbs up. Okay, so the topic or the title is programming your exercise. Now, programming is like it's a word that I don't love. It's a little bit more complex than it needs to be. But programming really is the fundamental thing that we need to be doing for our exercise to really make it effective. And I'm going to walk you through the principles of programming. And I haven't like set you all up with a program yet, because it's not necessarily absolutely necessary at the very beginning. And I'll kind of explain why based on the principles of exercise. But the really big sort of takeaway that I want you to have on the front end is that random exercise only gets you random results. And so if you're like most people, you're not interested in random results. You actually want a specific result. And so it's up to us to figure out what goals are you trying to accomplish and how can we write a program that can reliably take you right to those goals. For somebody, this might be like, I want to have a goal to be stronger than I've ever been, or to be stronger than I've been in the last 10 years. And I can literally help you set some benchmarks for you getting stronger. For others, it might be, look, I want to like get up and down from the floor faster and not be winded. I had one woman who said, she came to work with me, and I said, why do you want to work with me? Like, what's the big deep reason? And she said, literally, the reason I want to work with you is I want to chase my dog in the yard and not be winded. I said, that's great. And she can now chase her dogs in the yard and not be winded. And that's a perfect, that's awesome. You don't have to need to change the world, but having a good specific vision like that was really helpful. So I'm going to try to dive in, and I'm going to share with you kind of the principles of how to do programming, and then we're going to get really, really ground level. So the principles of effective exercise, and I think this should look familiar at least to Ronnie. I think maybe Carol too, but it should. I know I've sent out like an email on some of this stuff to a couple of you, based on just like what your kind of needs were. But I'm going to define these principles. I'm going to show you how we're going to apply them. It's really hard to. I'm not going to put anybody down, but we all know, we've all been at some time in our life someone who like did a lot of movement but didn't feel like they were getting any better. Does anybody resonate with that? You're putting in a lot of work, but your body isn't necessarily changing. You're not necessarily feeling better. I mean, I've definitely been there. If we apply these 4 principles, you'll be someone that doesn't just bounce around the gym or bounce from one thing to the next, but actually understands how to use your time and be a good steward of your time and activity to get a specific result in your body. So the first rule is specificity. And I would say this is the king of all the other rules. This is the most, it's probably the most important foundation that all the other ones are going to kind of filter through. Specificity is really simple. Movements that you train should be specific to the movements you want to improve. This is a really simple idea that is I think it's the king of all the other principles, but it's also the most misused and misapplied. Uh, is anybody an NBA fan or a basketball fan, college or pros? Kind of like, or a football fan? Any sports fan? Okay, so I'll use a basketball analogy, or I'll use the same football analogy. Have you ever seen before a game somebody warm up and they're standing in the corner on a basketball court and they're taking 15, 20 threes in a row from the same spot? Bam, 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 bam. And a person like that can make 12 in a row. You know, if you're at the NBA, they can make 12 in a row. And then they go in a game and they shoot 40%. Because they're practicing and training shooting 12, 15, 20 in a row, and they will never in a game shoot 12, 15, 20 in a row. Instead, in a game, you're going to shoot maybe one every 3 to 5 minutes. So this applies to skills like skills like shooting a basket or like playing piano, but it also applies to just the kind of movements that you're going to train in the gym. So if you want to move better in your daily life, you should be doing movements in the gym that mimic those that mimic the movements that you want to move better in your regular life. So if you want to get better at getting up and down from the floor with your grandkids, but your time in the gym looks like standing on a treadmill for 45 minutes, you're actually probably not going to get any more fit at playing with your grandkids. You're going to spend a lot of time on the treadmill and a lot of time not getting any better. So that's a really big frustration. By the way, a basketball player should switch. They should take a 3-pointer and then drive in and take a layup. Then they should play some defense and take a free throw and then go back to the 3-pointer. And if your life looks really crazy, you know, the gym should look pretty dynamic as well. So that's just kind of this rule will apply to everything else that we're going to talk about too. Okay, can anybody else point to a non-specific way they've practiced a skill or something in their lives? Can anybody think of some way that they've maybe messed this up? You think of one this week, but if you can think of one off the top of your head, I'd love to hear y'all thinking through that.
Well, Andrew, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I resonate with what you said about spending the bulk of my time on a treadmill, because that's where I was in a gym. I really wasn't doing much beyond that. So, yeah. And it was mainly just wanting to get some cardio in, but I don't know if there's any real attention given to repeated movements, at least in my history.
Yeah. And again, like there's time to be on a tread. You know, some people just need to get more steps throughout the day. And it's like, hey, you know, walk through the neighborhood. If the weather's bad, jump on your treadmill at home. I got one guy who reads every morning while walking on the treadmill. That really works for him. Again, but it should be specific to the thing. If you just want to increase the fitness of your heart in 45-minute intervals, you know, you could probably walk on the treadmill for 45 minutes. That might be fine. But if you're wanting to get stronger and lose some fat, treadmill is not it. So again, it just comes down to your specific goals. Did anybody have a kid that ever played piano or did like a recital? A fun one that, this isn't a fun one, but like if you're learning an instrument, people will oftentimes do really well in practice and then they go for a recital and they'll mess up the song. Well, it's because they never practiced playing the whole song all the way through. Instead, they just practice playing a bunch of parts of it. Instead, they should have just playing the song all the way through more times. So anyways, you will see non-specific applications to all kinds of things this week as you go in your life. The other one that I love is people that go to a shooting range before they go out hunting. And they take 300 shots down range to practice they're going to get one shot in 7 hours. So my buddy Logan and I used to be a trainer for vital signs, finishing up his PhD at UT. We're getting ready for bow hunting, and we'll literally have practices where we take one shot. We just stand still for about 8 minutes, take one shot. We're practicing for 8 minutes, but that's great practice. So they say you practice how you play. You should actually practice how you play. So I'm going to really hold y'all accountable to, you know, hey, what kind of movement are you doing? Is that specific to the thing that you want to improve on? And the more specific it is, the better results you're going to get. Okay, I spent more time on that than the other ones because, again, that's the kingpin. The next one is frequency. So in order to make improvements in strength, mobility, or anything else, you must train specific movements frequently. And 3 times a week of exercise is a good benchmark to start with. And a lot of times, if you're doing 3 times a week, you might be doing arms like twice and legs twice. Like you don't necessarily have to do the same movement 3 times a week. But in general, 3 times a week is pretty much the foundational number that you kind of want to be moving towards. Now, again, if you're starting from nothing, if you have not been working out in a really long time, you don't necessarily need to jump up to 3 times a week. But once you're moving, and once you're kind of doing it regularly, 3 times a week is a good benchmark. If you've been doing 3 times a week for a long time, it might be time to bump it up. But I'll show you the rules for when you can change from 3 times a week or get to 3 times a week. Intensity training should be challenging. Now, interestingly, this is the one that specificity is the one that people just mess up all the time, but intensity is one that people confuse. So in order for you to grow or learn or improve at anything, there's got to be a certain amount of a challenge. To go back to the example of a guy who's standing in the corner taking 15 threes in a row, that's actually just really easy. You can check out your brain and you can just do that without thinking. And if you're not being challenged, you're not actually growing and learning. So as you begin to exercise, you should always be able to point to a variable that's challenging. But the thing is, intensity can be achieved in multiple different ways. The way that we achieve intensity should be specific to the atom or to the outcome that you want to see. So, for example, sometimes intensity is going to make you sweat a lot and you won't have sore muscles. But other times, intensity, you won't sweat at all, but you're going to have really sore muscles the next day. Neither of those is necessarily better or worse, but whether or not we're going for sore muscles or sweating should be kind of based on what your goals are. Can anyone think of a workout where you're going to sweat a lot but not be sore the next day?
No, I'm sore always.
Adele, I know you can think of an activity that makes you sweat a lot but doesn't make you sore. In fact, it actually helps your soreness.
Oh, let's see. Taking a test, an exam, maybe.
Okay. What's something that you do like twice a week when you're in a rhythm?
Well, or more, walking.
Okay.
And I don't sweat usually unless it's summer.
I think you're overthinking it. It's really hot.
Oh, the sauna.
Yeah. So saunas went out of style about 2 years ago, obviously, because you don't do well social distancing in a sauna. But a sauna is a really intense experience, and your body responds to that intensity by sweating a bunch. But you're not ever going to get stronger by doing the sauna every day. Now, that doesn't mean the sauna is bad. The sauna's got a lot of benefits. But again, for Adele, it's a detox. It's a great way to get her body just moving, a lot of those processes moving. Now, in the same way, when I go to the gym, and if I'm just doing strength training, I'm really not going to sweat that much. You could see me come out of the gym and you could be like, well, man, Andrew just doesn't work out that hard. But if you could feel my legs, usually I walk out of the gym and my legs are really kind of throbbing. It's like, man, I'm having a hard time kind of walking. So does that make sense? And that kind of intensity doesn't make me sweat. And if you've never strength trained before, you might walk out of the gym and think, well, I never did anything because I didn't sweat. But again, we have to be able to identify what kind of intensity we're actually looking for. Does that kind of make sense?
Yes.
So I like to sweat in a workout. It makes me feel like I did more. So a lot of times I'll just jump on the bike and just hammer it for like 5 minutes and really get the sweat rolling, and then I'll lift. I like lifting when I'm sweaty. And that's just it's not purely psychological. It's psychological, but also doing workouts that gets you sweating releases a lot of endorphins and stuff. So it's kind of a mood booster. So again, though, we are going to, our homework is to, as a team, figure out what exactly do you want to grow and accomplish. And we're going to find specific measures of intensity that we are going to manipulate to help you get to that goal. Okay, now this is the fun one. This is where you get to give yourself grace, progressive overload. You know, I said for a lot of people, 3 times of exercise a week is a good benchmark to start with as a foundation of frequency. But if you've been doing nothing, you may not need to be up to 3 times a week. The reason for that is that intensity of your workouts shouldn't be static. Instead, it should increase in proportion to how you're gaining fitness. But you only need to progressively overload the intensity of your workouts. You don't need to ridiculously overload the intensity of your workouts. You don't need to go from 0 to 100 when you can go from 0 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25, and then eventually you really are going to get to 100. So this is why, you know, I haven't thrown everybody from day one into a program. You know, not everybody's got to just dive into, you know, for most of you, you can nod your head if I've said this to you. Like I said, hey, get moving, get exercising, you know, start kind of getting excited about it. Let's lift some weight. Let's move through some of the foundational movement. And the reality is just doing all of that is doing progressive overload. And there's been some measure of specificity that we've been aiming for. So, but as a general rule, like sometimes I'll have people that say, hey, I'm ready to start tomorrow. I want to work out 5 days a week. And it's like, look, you don't need to jump to 5 days a week. You're going to get benefit by going to 3. And in fact, if you go too hard, too fast, it's going to be counterproductive. So this is kind of the fun one. This is where if you're following these 4 rules, it doesn't need to feel like killing yourself. It's actually just going to feel like you're just going to work a little bit smarter, and you are going to get, now you do have to, you know, you got to do the work. You got to think through what's the specific thing that you want to improve. You got to be consistent with it. And it's got to be a little bit hard. But if you can do those 3 things, I can work with you to progressively increase what you're doing to actually get to a point where you can begin to feel really, really good about. And instead of being static in your results and static in the way you're performing in the gym, you can actually increase your capacity to do work. You can increase the weights that you can lift, or the number of reps that you can lift, all that kind of stuff. And one of the ways you can do progressive overload is by going from 3 days a week of exercise to 4 days, and then at some point maybe to 5 days. But the note of grace and encouragement that I want to give y'all is you don't need to get to 100 really, really fast. And I don't want you to get to 100 really, really fast. And if you're at 0, it's okay to be at 0. And it's actually kind of like you could feel good that you're at 0, because it's a lot easier to get from 0 to 50 than it is from 50 to 100. So that's kind of the good news there. A lot of people I work with say, well, I've never done strength training. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness, you're going to make me look really good. Because if you've never done strength training before, you can increase your strength by like astronomical numbers really, really quickly. So this is the fun one. And progressive overload is kind of what I like to help you kind of think through. How do we actually progressively overload our work? Okay, so any questions on anything that I've said so far? Here are the 4 principles. Do y'all feel like y'all kind of understand each one? You'll really understand as we begin to apply this over the next couple of months. But intellectually, at least, do these kind of make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Any questions on those? I'm not fishing. And just, you know. Okay. All right. So what kind of movements should you train? And these are sort of like, this is the, I guess, Vila tends to create these. Yeah, we definitely didn't create them. But these would be what we call like the kind of functional movement patterns. We would argue that training should help facilitate your life rather than, you know, training should serve your life rather than life serves your training. And so the way we do that is we want you to leave the gym more prepared to do the things in your everyday life that you need and want to do. So a lot of people want to feel confident and comfortable picking up their grandkids and sitting down with them and knowing that they're not going to fall over. That's that, for example. So these are what we call the functional movement patterns. Squatting would be, just the sitting movement pattern, sitting up and down. Hinging would be bending over to pick something up. Pushing is very simple. You push horizontally and vertically. Pulling as well, you pull horizontally and you pull vertically. Carrying would just be picking something up and then walking. And then single leg movements. Here's a great application of specificity. How many of you want to move better with less pain, be a little bit stronger? Okay. How many of you, when you go to the gym for almost all of your life, train on two legs? So you pick dumbbells up with you when you're on two legs, you get it down on a bench. Most of us do most of our movement on two legs, right? Yet our movement, as moving beings, we spend 70% of the time on one leg. Only 30% of our gait elapses with both of our feet on the ground. So as crazy as it sounds, if I told you, hey, work out on one leg, most people would look crazy at me. But from a specificity standpoint, we actually move pretty much on one leg. And so if you want to improve your movement, improve your single leg movements. So there's a specificity application there. And then rotation. There's always the joke that you don't pull out your back, deadlifting, you pull out your back by picking up the pin off the ground. And a lot of that is just like a funky rotation that we do, and then you throw your back out. I've seen it 50 million times. That's an exaggeration. I haven't seen it 50 million times. I shouldn't exaggerate. But if you're not practicing rotating, you're not going to rotate safely. And again, that goes to a specificity thing. If you get really strong just moving like this, you're not going to improve your strength moving like this. So if you want to move better in your world, which has a lot, you can even keep a small tally just for 15 minutes. How many times in 15 minutes do you actually rotate? And you probably actually are rotating way more than you're realizing. So these are functional movement patterns. I want everybody to sort of be able to identify these, because as we get in the gym, you should probably be working each of these patterns twice a week. And in Vital Fit at our gym location, that is our goal, that everybody's doing these movements a minimum of 2 times a week. Rotation, sometimes we do that a little bit less, but so you're training these functional movement patterns. This helps you a lot with specificity. And then we would structure a program that gradually increases the intensity, frequency of these movements utilizing progressive overload. So for the brain group that'll meet in January, we'll do 2 times a week of progressive strength and conditioning, which is good enough as a start for some. And it's not quite sufficient for others if you're moving well, and if you're progressing well, and if your nutrition's progressing as well. So one of the options could be for 2 to 4 weeks, supplement with just like some at-home programming that I can help you with, or and then from about the weeks 4 to 8, so the month of February, you could join a Vital Fit class and do 1 to 2 days per week there as well. Because if you do that home workout program on the 3rd day, it's a little bit less intensity, and then join exercise class on that 3rd day is a way to progressively overload. You're working out the same amount of times of the week, but one of those workouts is slightly more intense. Does that kind of make sense? So, or if you're someone who's been working out at home like 3 days a week, I might ask you, hey, can we get to the gym 1 to 2 times a week? Because you usually get a little bit of a harder workout in if you're actually at a gym. So again, this does sort of, to really nail all this stuff, it really comes down to the one that you really need to have a foundation of is the frequency. As long as you can commit to having 2 to 3 blocks on your schedule set aside for exercise, it doesn't take any more effort to do these other 3 really, really well. So I'm not asking anybody to put more effort into the way they work, but we're just going to focus the way we exercise to get better results. So real quick, I'll bring this up again just because it's helpful to see. Oh, okay, I'll ask y'all. So this isn't the first time anybody's seen this. Looking at this program, what principles of effective exercise stick out to you? So we got week 1 here, week 6 down here, week 7, week 8. What principles of effective exercise do y'all see at work?
Consistency.
Okay, so we're assuming what? Yeah, consistency or
work 3
frequency. Yep.
3 times.
Yep. 3 times a week frequency. If you're a little bit more advanced, that would give you a 4-day-a-week program. If you're really in a rhythm, you know that if you're an expert, we'd have a 5-day-a-week program. But yeah, a 3-day-a-week program. What else? So that's good. I gave it to another group recently. They didn't mention the
If you're
frequency.
alternating reps, no. Yeah, it got more on the.
Okay, yeah. Explain that. Describe that.
Oh, the reps. Okay, you're increasing the number of reps on week 2, and then you're increasing the number of rounds on week 3.
Yeah. So progressive overload, you can do it with sets or rounds. You can do it with reps. So you see here, you're doing 8 and 10 reps. So here you're doing 10 and 12. Okay, when this person goes to 4 rounds and they go back to, instead of 10 reps, they're going back to 8 reps. What is unspoken on this program, but what are they going to do between weeks 2 and 3? They've increased the weight. Yeah, they're probably going to increase the weight. So there's 2 increases there. So if you in a program decrease the reps that you're doing in a set, you're probably going to increase the weight. Yep. Now you could also get in there, Amy, and you say, shoot, now that I'm doing 4 rounds, I'm worn out by the 4th round. And you probably, you could just do a simple volume calculation of sets times reps times weight and figure out where the volume is. And that is sort of personal preference. But, and also, like, if we're looking at this and you've increased your nutrition and you're really nailing your protein, you're getting good quality carbohydrates in your diet and healthy vegetables, your nutrition should progress you as well. Okay, so that's great. Frequency, progressive overload, anything else? Y'all are pretty much. What about specificity? This might be so obvious, it's like hard to, but I would just say specificity, it's the functional movement patterns. So if you're working through this program, you're going to be, and then the grandkids or the kids come and run in your arms, you're going to be way more likely to just kind of be able to grab them and not have an injury or anything. So it's the functional movement patterns. And what do we think? Is this more of a conditioning or a cardio program, or is it more, what do you think it would be like the stated goal of a program like this?
Strength.
Yeah. This would pretty much be a strength program. Now you could run these like circuits, like you could do deadlift, reverse lunge, floor press, kneeling curl at a pretty light weight and just keep running through them with like no rest. And that could be, or just a rest between rounds. But in general, yeah, this is pretty much a strength program. Okay, so here's the homework. Here's the homework that I'm giving y'all, and here's where I need a little bit of help. Okay, so I'll send this to y'all in an email. But what I need from you all is a specific outcome, a specific movement-related outcome that you would like to accomplish over the next 3 to 4 months. So it could be as simple as, I'm going on a hike with my family in March, and I'd love to just like be in great shape for it. Or, like I want to increase my strength by 10 to 15%. That's a realistic outcome as well. So give me a specific movement related outcome that you would like to accomplish. And then I want you to tell me an activity that you think is you could participate in that is specific to accomplish that goal. So you might say, I want to be in really good shape for the hike in 4 months. And what I'd like to do is one day in the week, I'd like to find a place in Knoxville and do a hike. And on the other days, that's kind of where I would come in, is I can help you kind of think through that. So again, I'll send this in an email, but a specific movement related outcome you would like to accomplish within the next 4 months. You can think longer than that. If you want to think through a year or 6 month goal, that's fine too. An activity that you think is specific to accomplish that goal. And I'm going to help you program and help you start at a appropriate frequency. And I'll literally write you up something. Show you. Does that make sense? Does anything jump to mind real quick? Does anybody already know like something they want to accomplish? It's okay.
I want to not fall over if my kids run up to give me a hug. If they come give me a hug, I'm like, wait, my hip, I've got a brace.
Love it. Love it. And Amy, okay, so this is great. Let's talk about I'll talk about where this can go wrong if you don't understand this. If you have an injury or something, this can be even more important. So there was a case that has stuck in my mind forever. I was working with a woman. She's about 74 years old, and she injured her knee. It was like a tear in her meniscus. It wasn't like a huge tear, but it was pretty uncomfortable. She went to her doctor, and her doctor said, well, you've got a knee issue. You can't squat anymore. Okay, what do we think about that? That's a
She'll
really
have a hard time
open-ended
going to the
question.
bathroom.
Yeah, okay. So you've just told someone they can't squat anymore. The reality is you are there at some point in the next 10 years, this woman's going to need to squat. Like whether it's an accident or like, I don't know, if she's got to go to the bathroom, she's going to have to squat. So the reality is those functional movement patterns, people are oftentimes scared to do them for a really good reason. They've got a serious injury. People are like, I don't want to press overhead because I've torn a rotator cuff. Okay, so what I'm not saying is if you have a hard time pressing overhead, just start pressing overhead. What I am saying is if you struggle with a movement, that is exactly the kind of movement that we need very intelligent, goal-oriented approach to address that weakness. Because if you tell a 75-year-old woman she can never squat again, the reality is at some point she's going to have to squat. And if she has stopped squatting for 2 years and she needs to squat at some point in year 3, she will be completely unprepared to squat and she's going to be a fall risk at that point. Mm-hmm. So the hard thing to do is to say, shoot, like we've got to find an appropriate frequency and an appropriate level, you know. So what I had this woman do is I literally held bands for her and she squatted with 90% assistance. And it was a little bit painful, but she could do that for 3 weeks. And then the next week she could do it with 70% assistance. And now she can squat again. She's squatting sandbags like 80 pounds, something, which is super cool. So I'll show y'all an example. So basically, Amy, if you've got an injury, or especially if you've got a known weakness, it's an anti-fragile thing. It's a fragile strategy to say, I've got a weakness or an injury here, so I'm not going to do anything about it. If you've got a weakness or an injury there, you know it's a problem, which means we've got to intelligently address the problem in a way that can build a strong foundation. Because if you're a fall risk, Amy, right now, when kids are running at you, you know, if you get one more injury, maybe you're more of a fall risk. So that's even more of a reason. You know, I would highlight your weaknesses. And when you think of a specific movement oriented outcome that you want to accomplish, you know, feel free to pick something that you really feel weak on or that you really don't feel confidence in. So does that kind of make sense as well?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. let me show y'all an example of what I did with a woman recently. So it is super simple. This is not rocket science. Simple is good. Simple is sustainable. Simple is accomplishable. So this woman has a pretty fit husband, and he has long strides. And she loves to go walking, but whenever she walks with her husband, she has a hard time keeping up. He gets to the top of the hill, she's got to kind of take a breather, and it's kind of ruining the vibe of their couple walks. So the movement related outcome is the specific movement related outcome, she wants to be able to enjoy walks with her husband and not, it not be an issue for her. So here's a quick program that I wrote up with her, and that will help her better accomplish that goal. So the specific thing we're going to do is we're going to increase the fitness of her heart, and we're also going to increase the strength of her individual legs. Now, the best way to improve walking is actually to walk, but another good way to do that is by cycling. So she's currently in a gym 3 days a week. And so we're going to start, and she's literally just going to cycle. I'm just going to ask 6 minutes of her the next 2 weeks. I'm like, can you start with 6 minutes? She's like, yeah, I can start with 6 minutes. That's nothing. Okay, great. Within that 6 minutes, she's just going to do a 1 minute sprint, a 1 minute sprint all out. This is a little bit more complicated than necessary, but she's going to do those in 20-second intervals. She's going to keep the same time, but each week going to increase her sprinting, her sprinting time. And then in 10 weeks, she's going to be doing 12 minutes of cycling, half of which is going to be a sprint. By the end of that, she's going to have stronger legs. She's going to be much more cardio fit. And throughout, she's going to be going on one walk with her husband each week, and she's going to kind of monitor her progress. So that's a really simple thing, but like, it's going to make her feel better going on walks with her husband. But at the end of the day, she's going to be sprinting for as many minutes as she started on the bike in total. And this actually is going to be just like a pretty good start to her cardio fitness in general. So by the time she gets to week 10, she's just going to have very subtly increased the amount of work she's doing each week. But she is going to feel an intensity every session. And by the time she gets to week, shoot, y'all, she's going to be rolling. She's going to be able to jump and get to the next level and any other kind of cardio related thing that she wants to accomplish. Oh, and by the way, like, when you are fit like that, strength training in the gym is a lot easier too. So this is an example of where we could start if you've not been doing almost any cardio and you want to do something like that. She also has a rower at home, and I've told her that she do a couple of these on the rowers. Even though the rower is less specific than the cycle for single leg, it still works her legs, her back, and it still works her heart in a helpful way. So I can take time to kind of develop something like this for almost each of you. Some people are really just going to benefit from the program and making some slight modifications to this program that does not have to be done at home, but can be done at home. So this week, again, I'll send out an email, but you send me back that specific movement related outcome and an activity that you would like to participate in that's specific to that. And I'll give you feedback and kind of set you up with a program. And then we're going to learn a lot over the next, 8 to 10 weeks as we kind of apply that program. This is really good if you feel like I'm working out, but I'm not quite where I want to be. Or if I feel like I'm starting from square one and I have a hard time envisioning where I'm going. If you're at either one of those places, hopefully we can really just chart a course. I talked with someone recently about the same concept. She said, what I love about following a program is I just go to the gym and I don't have to think about anything. I just do my program. And she's like, I love to be told what to do. And honestly, you should be told intelligently what to do and then just kind of stop having to think too much about it every time you work out. So save your mental effort when you're at the gym and expend physical effort, not mental effort. All right, y'all, any questions on that? Adele, this is going to be really good for you, for us to kind of figure out what's our, what exactly are the next steps that you want to accomplish. I think you you've got a good foundation. You've been moving for the last 6 months pretty consistently. But for you, it's like the next step is getting a little bit more consistent with strength training, and then the rower that you've got at your house is perfect for this. So I'm just I'm thinking through with you on this as well. I'm really thinking through all of you, but Adele, your name popped in my head, or your face popped on my. Here, wait, here. Sorry. Say that again. Wait, Adele, I muted you. I messed up. You unmuted yourself, and then I muted you on top of that. Hold on. Yeah, there you are.
Is
There
that
you
it?
are. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
I said I increased my minutes today on rowing,
Love it. How many minutes are you up to now?
just 10.
Okay, that's good. Hey, 10 minutes of rowing is like, I'll say this, I can do it. It feels like 30. So, that's no joke.
Well, it was good. I'm enjoying it.
Love it. And rowing is great because it really is a little bit of strength and cardio. It kind of splits the difference, but you're both growing in strength and in cardio. There's not many things that do that well. Rowing really is a full body workout. So I'm a big fan of rowing. Ronnie, how have you been? I know you went to the beach for a little bit. Have you been consistent with the at-home circuit, or is that, how has that been?
I was not last week. I did a lot of walking last week. And you had pulled me back from 3 to 2. And so I was that, which was fine. I mean, but I've not increased.
Yeah.
Not increased.
How are those 2 sessions? Do they feel intense? Are you sore? Are you sweating? Describe that a little bit.
I am sore the next day.
Okay.
There was one little stretch there. I think one of my reports, I told you, I thought I felt a little stronger. The next week, and this was not, I wasn't doing anything in terms of changing the reps or any of that. The next week, it felt more challenging. So I didn't know what to do with that, but I felt like maybe I was making a little progress, and then I regressed a little bit.
Okay, so this is not my perception was that week where you said I felt a little bit stronger, your nutrition was way up and your exercise was up a little bit. The next week, your calories went down like 500, I think.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, so one of the things that excites me most is in an area that I think I've learned more and seen clients thrive more from an intensity standpoint. If your nutrition is really poor, you will not be able to even do intensity. And that's not your fault. Like that's really where the beauty comes in. People a lot of times, I've told most of you that I want you to actually eat a little bit more food. People are really scared to do that. But one of the beautiful things is if you actually eat more food, you literally have the energy to train harder. And so people can go a whole year not even realizing, but they're not bringing intensity to their workouts because they just don't have enough energy. So the classic case of this is like a 25-year-old eating 1,500 calories and trying to do a bunch of CrossFit. It's like you're hardly fueling your body for really hard exercise and you just can't keep up. So if you're dragging in the gym, it may be because you're lifting too heavy or you're trying to do too much, or it also may be you're just not eating enough. So that's my big problem is I just got a really high level of metabolism that I've just got to eat a bunch for me to feel really good in the gym. So, and it's hard to eat as much as I really need to feel my best. So that's my perception on that, Ronnie. That's something I want you to kind of keep watching as you progress.
Yeah, it's been surprising to me how challenging that has been to be able to reach those expectations in each of the 4 categories. I mean, I'm aiming at it and I'm coming up short pretty consistently, which is really weird to me.
Yeah. It's not weird to me. I recognize that's the majority of people. Now I will say there's a bit of an aside off the exercise thing, but if I say the word, you've probably never heard this before, but if I say the word, you'll probably understand it. Does anybody feel like they're playing macro Tetris?
Yes.
Mine's
Macro,
a different generation.
yeah. Well, you played Tetris. Tetris was more y'all's than mine. Macro Tetris is when you're trying to sit there and you're trying to figure out what food you need to hit your target. Really, the best way to have confidence and to make that easy is to do the thing where you take 5 minutes the night before, log in a snack, log in your breakfast, and then follow the meal matrix. And in about 5 minutes, it can really simplify that. And you can begin to have a better idea of, am I going to be short on all my targets tomorrow? Or, oh, shoot, like I'm going out to eat, and that actually is a lower calorie meal than I'm typically eating. So I need to kind of bump up my snack a little bit. So doing a little bit of planning ahead on that is gonna keep you from spending a ton of time in your phone trying to figure out what you need to do. And it's actually going to simplify that for you. Okay. So at this point, anybody else, I can give you some one-on-one attention now over email on a call this week, whatever you want. But does anybody have any other questions on that? Like Barbara, I'm thinking through you, your exercise plan has just changed a bunch. So this is definitely something that we're going to kind of need to get right with you, or just kind of develop a plan for. So do you have any questions on that, or you feel like you?
No, I'm just going to try the schedule that you gave me with those exercises. I'm going to try that this week and go through that and see where I am and do that with some cardio at home.
Perfect. Yeah. And for you, again, I would, if you like the elliptical and if you like cardio, it's sort of like I put on Facebook my walk yesterday in Sharps Ridge. It's just beautiful. And I love walking out there. And I do that because I love to do it. And it's just good to move my body. But I don't, like, that's not going to turn me into He-Man. It's not going to make me Arnold. And by the way, I don't want to be Arnold. But that I think of as almost like my goal of working out in the gym is to be able to do stuff like that for the rest of my life. And that's just a good thing. But that's not necessarily like a lot of people get frustrated because they're like, I hike, but I'm not as fit as I want to be. I'm like, well, you should get fit so that you hike more, rather than thinking that a little bit of hiking is going to make you as fit as you want to be, if that kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I love to do that, and I encourage all you to do that. And if you like the elliptical like that, Barbara, and if you like cardio, and if that's just really good for your spirit, absolutely keep doing it. But then I do want to progress with you through that strength training program, and see how you tolerate that. I guess only other comment I have on you individually that's in my head right now is, Amy, if you've got some pain issues, what I like to do with that is do like 2 workouts a week, and then a third day that I call like a deload day, which is less intense, which is something like stretching. That actually the goal of that is to recover from those 2 days of working out, which will allow you to go into the next week with kind of renewed intensity. So that's definitely something I'm thinking of with you, is we could do 2 days more of structured exercise, and the third day can be a stretch recovery day. And then at some point that can maybe turn into another workout. But for now, I think of it as like a deload day.
I've done okay with the 2 days so far.
Okay.
This week.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just great. So if you're totally fine with it, you might not need the deload day yet. But as you get more fit, you're probably going to be able to fit more working out into those 2 days. And those days are going to get a little bit harder, and then you might need the deload day. It's also just a way to kind of, you can begin the discipline of just scheduling that time, getting movement in there, and then it's just a lot easier from a habit standpoint to plug in, some dumbbells in that time.
The push-ups are really hard. I don't know that will ever get better. I guess so maybe I'm thinking of it wrong. I'm thinking like, I'm going to be in pain for 6 weeks, but I'm going to do these things for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Is that
wrong? Well, maybe not. And again, with you, think of the example of like the woman who tore her meniscus. So So again, we've got to start intelligently. Really good communication is going to help us. So just keep me updated on how you are. But yes, the pain, I mean, exercise is a cure isn't the right word. Exercise is what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a cure for pain, but exercise improves pain. And every randomized control trial shows that. So people that are in pain, it's like, hey, the problem is we need to get you to exercise, but exercise causes pain. So how do we do it intelligently where it causes the least amount of pain that sets you on a path for long term? It's going to be pain liberating. So yeah, let's see how you're progressing. If your pain is getting worse over the next couple of weeks, we might actually have to back it off.
Okay. I mean, it's a little bit worse, but I'm expecting it to be for right now.
Right. If it seems like it's getting, yeah. So we'll have to kind of watch that. But also, Amy,
Okay.
like a stretching day actually may help relieve that pain a little bit. So just something to think through. We
Cool.
probably don't have to do
Yep.
that like now, but yeah. All right, y'all. Any other questions?
Nope. Look forward to the spreadsheet
Yeah, right.
and the direction.
Yeah. So I'll send out an email. I think it'll be gosh, y'all, tomorrow's Wednesday already. I'll send out that email by tomorrow morning, which you can just reply to that email saying, here's the specific outcome I want to accomplish. Here's the activity I think is specific towards that. And then I'll send you back some thoughts with a pretty ugly spreadsheet. And then we will go over it. And by the 18th, I think, by Tuesday, the 18th, we should have a plan for all of you. And then we should get to it from a frequency standpoint. So we should be on the same page with, okay, is 3 days a week actually realistic for you at this point? Is maybe maybe one day we have 4 days a week, like every other week, something like that. And then we commit to that. And then if I know exactly what you're doing and sticking to, that's so helpful. And you're just going to move towards your goals that much faster. So that's we'll probably be able to get there sooner than the 18th for everybody, but I like to just give a realistic, jumping off point. And it'll also give you, if you're in the group starting on the 11th, it'll give you a week to kind of see how that's going to work, and we can kind of go back and forth on how we can incorporate that together.
Yeah.
But I'll be doing the programming for that group as well. So I'll be making a program for that, and then we can individualize it to you outside of that. All right, y'all. This is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun. Thanks for spending Tuesday evening with me.
Thank you. The same. Hope you get over your cold quickly.
Well, I'm gonna get tested tomorrow. I don't think it's a cold, but I do too. I appreciate you.